Have you ever really thought about how some groups of people just seem to stay together, you know? Like, what keeps communities so distinct?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of a big question about how societies actually organize themselves. Today, we are going deep into a practice in India that has gone on for a long time.
Yeah.
Endogamy.
Right, right. Endogamy is basically the custom of marrying within a certain social group.
Yeah.
So this could be based on your caste, religion, or even your community.
It's not just some passing fad, is it?
No, not at all. This is something really ingrained in Indian culture.
Like deep roots.
Absolutely, deep roots, especially in caste and tribal communities.
Mm.
And it has really played a key role in shaping the social landscape for centuries.
For centuries, wow.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is endogamy is like this powerful way to keep group identity and social structures going from one generation to the next.
And while we often think about this from just like a social point of view, there's this whole biological side that's becoming clearer because of some recent work from the CSIR-Centre for Cellular and Molecular Biology. Yes.
Led by senior scientist Thangaraj.
That's right.
So what we want to do in this deep dive is twofold. First, to really get why endogamy is so important in India from like a cultural and social perspective.
Okay.
And second, to explore the genetic implications for health that this new research is revealing.
Exactly.
So let's just jump right in. Where does this practice of endogamy come from?
Well, if you look at it from a cultural and social angle, it's been all about preserving identity and order in society.
Right.
And the historical caste system in Hindu society, the Varna system, is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just about where you stood socially. It was really tied to the jobs that were passed down through families.
Oh, interesting.
So if you married within your caste and subcaste, you were basically making sure that system continued.
Okay, so it wasn't just a preference, was it?
Right.
It was almost like a rule for the traditional caste system to actually work.
Exactly, maintaining those boundaries through marriage.
Through marriage. Yeah. But this isn't just a Hindu caste system thing.
Right, of course.
There are similar patterns in other communities, too, where marrying within the group is preferred.
I see. So are you saying that there weren't pressures or exceptions to marry outside of one's group?
Yeah, I mean, while the caste system is a big factor, you see the same kind of preference for in-group marriage in other communities as well.
Uh-huh.
Like if you look at Muslim, Christian, and different tribal communities in India, they've also historically pushed for marriages within their own groups.
Interesting.
Because it's a way of protecting their religious and cultural identities, which makes sense. It's about that feeling of belonging, right?
It's like a shared heritage thing.
Exactly.
And hold on, it's not only about religion and caste either, is it?
No, it goes even further.
Because I remember reading about regional and linguistic endogamy.
Yes.
That's about marrying within your own language group to keep traditions and even dialects alive.
You got it. I mean, think about it. A shared language is really powerful in bringing people together. It is. So groups like Tamil Brahmins, Gujarati Patels, and Marwari business communities, they often practice endogamy within their linguistic and regional lines.
Right.
This helps them keep those specific cultural aspects alive, their particular way of life, even the slight differences in how they speak the language.
Fascinating. It's almost like there are these little pockets of distinct cultures within India.
Yeah.
And each one is using marriage practices to hold on to its unique identity.
Right, but there's a practical side to this, too. Don't forget that.
Oh, of course. The economics and politics of it all.
Exactly. Endogamous marriages can be a way to solidify a family's wealth, political influence, and business interests.
Okay.
If you marry within the family or community, you're less likely to see assets spread out, and you keep more control over decisions.
That makes sense.
And we see this a lot in business families.
Where?
Especially in states like Gujarat and Rajasthan. Marrying within their tight communities is seen as super important for keeping their finances stable and making sure their businesses continue to thrive.
So it's about keeping the money and power within the group.
Precisely. It's a strategy for long-term stability, both economically and socially.
All right, so we've looked at why endogamy exists from a cultural and social point of view.
Okay.
Now, let's think about how these really close-knit communities might have actually shaped their own biology through their marriage practices over generations.
Right.
This is where the CSIR-CCMB study really shines a light on some interesting and potentially worrisome genetic stuff.
It does.
So what did they find?
Well, even though there are historical and social reasons for endogamy, the main genetic takeaway from this research is that it can really increase the chances of people inheriting 2 copies of the same gene that causes a disease.
Hmm.
And that leads to a higher occurrence of certain hereditary conditions within those communities.
Because they are all marrying within their smaller, closer-knit groups.
Exactly. When you marry within a smaller, closely related community, it just naturally increases the chances of people sharing the same genetic mutations.
And then that raises the risk of hereditary diseases in those groups, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, if both parents have a recessive gene for a certain condition, the likelihood of their kids inheriting that condition goes way up if they come from the same endogamous group.
Precisely. It's like if you think of genes as a recipe. You need 2 copies of the wrong ingredient, which is that recessive gene, for the dish to turn out bad. And that's when the disease shows up.
I like that analogy.
In endogamous communities, there's just a higher chance of both parents having that same wrong ingredient.
Ah.
And this study actually gives us a good example of this with the Reddy community in Andhra Pradesh. They have a higher rate of ankylosing spondylitis, which is the type of arthritis. And this is linked to a specific genetic variant called the HLA B27.04 risk allele.
Wow. Okay.
Genes are instructions, right? And alleles are like different versions of those instructions.
Okay.
So in the Reddy community, there's a particular version of a gene, this HLA B27.04 allele, that makes them more likely to get ankylosing spondylitis.
Yeah.
And this clearly shows us how endogamy can make certain genetic disorders more common within specific populations.
So something that might have been a social norm for generations has actually led to this very specific and possibly negative health outcome for the Reddy community.
That's right.
Makes you wonder about other cultural practices that might seem harmless on the surface but have deeper implications.
Right.
But the study didn't stop at just figuring out disease risks, did it?
No, it went further than that.
Didn't it also look at how different communities might respond to medicines differently?
They did. They looked at something called pharmacogenomic markers.
Okay, what's that?
These are basically variations in our genes that affect how our bodies deal with drugs.
Interesting.
And what they found was that because of the genetic diversity, or in this case, the similarity within these endogamous groups, people from different communities might metabolize or process certain medications in different ways. It's kind of like different engines using the same fuel.
Yeah.
Some might be better at using it, or they might react differently.
Oh, okay.
So a medicine that works well for one group might not have the same effect, or even could be harmful for another group, simply because of their genetic background, which is shaped by these long-standing marriage customs.
So a medication could be effective for one group, but have different, possibly even bad effects in another.
Exactly.
Just because of their genes.
Right.
Wow. Could you give us a specific example from the study?
Sure. They looked at drugs like Tacrolimus, which is immunosuppressant, often used after organ transplants, and Warfarin, a common blood thinner.
Okay.
And what they thought was that the best dosage and effectiveness of these drugs can really change based on a person's genes.
I see.
And their research suggests these genetic differences are more obvious in endogamous communities. This really emphasizes how important it is to consider someone's genetic background, especially as we move towards personalized medicine.
It brings a whole new level to the idea of tailoring treatments to the individual, doesn't it? It's not just about their overall health. It's about understanding the specific genetic history of their community.
Yes.
So, given all these findings, the study made some pretty clear suggestions, didn't it?
Absolutely. Dr. Thangaraj and his team stressed how crucial it is to have genetic counseling and screening programs, especially in rural and marginalized communities. In those communities, awareness about genetic disorders might not be as high.
That makes sense.
Your main goal is to find the individuals and families who are at a higher risk and give them the medical advice and support they need.
So it's about being proactive, at identifying potential health problems in these communities,
Right.
and giving people the knowledge to make smart decisions about their health and family planning.
Exactly. If you look at the news summary from the study, it sums up their key findings nicely.
Okay.
It clearly states that genetic mutations, the ones that come from endogamous marriages, are a big contributor to hereditary diseases in specific populations.
Right.
It reminds us about that link between the HLA 27.04 allele and ankylosing spondylitis in the Reddy community, and it points out the differences in how people process drugs like Tacrolimus and Warfarin.
So their big message is that we really need genetic screening and counseling and the right medical interventions to deal with these health risks that are specific to certain populations.
Yep.
And if anyone wants to dig deeper into the science behind these findings, they should know that this research was published in the Journal of Genetics and Genomics.
Yes, a well-respected, peer-reviewed journal.
So this isn't just anecdotal evidence or anything. It's rooted in solid scientific research.
Absolutely. It adds a big layer of scientific understanding to what we know about the long-term effects of endogamy in India.
So we've really come full circle in this deep dive. We've seen how endogamy in India is this complex mix of cultural preservation, social structures, and economic factors.
Right.
But now we're also realizing that it has some significant genetic consequences.
It really shows how closely linked our cultural practices are to our biology.
For generations, endogamy has been a key part of community identity. But this new research is making us think about the health risks that might come with it.
It's a dilemma, right?
It really is. On one hand, there's the desire to keep these deep cultural traditions alive. But then on the other, we're learning more and more about the potential health risks and the possibility of being more susceptible to certain diseases.
And it emphasizes how important the study's recommendations are. We need more genetic counseling, more public awareness about genetic disorders, and we need healthcare policies that actually consider these genetic realities that are unique to different populations. This is really important for making sure everyone has fair access to healthcare, no matter what community they belong to.
Absolutely. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, it really makes you think. If something as ingrained as cultural practices can have such widespread and sometimes unexpected effects on our biology, what other long-held traditions might we need to re-examine in light of new scientific discoveries? It's a big question and a really important one for all of us to ponder.